Welcome once again to Tim Skonan's blogs, which I'm reading out. This one's called Rapid Continental Transit Theory. Were there really ever ice ages? To suppose that there were is to suppose that the Earth is an unstable environment for life, with heating and cooling mechanisms that can sometimes fail. Yet, there is ample evidence to show that indeed the global shelves have migrated across many continents today that are far to the south of the polar regions. There is an alternative explanation for the historical presence of glacial shelf migration during an ice age, during an age of an ice-bound Earth, and that is simply the movement of continents via the tectonic plate system into and out of the polar regions. Ice ages tend to be cyclical, occurring at regular intervals lasting for predictable periods of time, and having a set level of intensity. Indeed, ice ages, as they are called, are no more than polar seasons brought upon the continents that we know today as existing outside polar regions. However, the line of glacial ridges, when they meet the land, only really makes any sense if they occurred while the continents were brought together and aligned within the Arctic regions in the northern hemisphere. Naturally, the movement of the tectonic plates might be looked upon as an alternative instability, but in reality, it would be the coastal regions that would bear the brunt of any rapid continental movement and transit. If that transit were to be benign in nature, leaving vast internal areas of continents unscathed by the forces that would necessarily accompany such drastic global transformation, then it is feasible that life on Earth in those safe regions could continue with only minimal adjustment needed for the climate changes brought on by the new geographical location of the various continents. This is due to the fact that historically, when the continents have amalgamated, migratory routes are open to allow animals and people to relocate away from unsuitable areas. Of course, the opposite would be true in the event of the separation of continents, and such peoples would no doubt explain the extinction of both species and human societies. The primary problem with the belief that the Earth is periodically engulfed by millennia of frozen temperatures, albeit leaving the equatorial regions as habitable zones, is that a planet without an effective thermostatic control in its weather systems would inevitably fail to stop its surfaces from freezing completely. In other words, it would be inevitable that the degree to which the Earth froze would be such to permanently destroy all life. The very presence of life on Earth now, and the absence of a viable theory for the repeat spontaneous creation of life from nothing that extreme ice ages would inevitably leave, argues against the idea that the Earth's thermostat is faulty enough to allow major global temperature changes. It is not enough to believe that the planet can eventually self-regulate after prolonging periods of ever-deepening frozen temperatures, without actually witnessing such an act of self-regulation, and the evidence of past continental glacial shelves on now temperate regions, if accurate, means there must exist a phenomenon that shifts these ice titans one way or another. Instead, a viable explanation must be sought that can explain glacial shelf migration on a planet that maintains suitable temperatures for the variety of life on its surface as we know it today. Since it has been known that the continents themselves can and do periodically shift location, even migrating halfway across the globe, and indeed into the polar regions, it is reasonable to tie the phenomenon of the so-called ice ages and tectonic plate movement into one seamless event, as a response to cosmic forces acting upon the planet that might otherwise cause global warming or cooling. It may be that the regular movement of the continental shelves is the result of a cyclical solar event, in which external gravitational or solar forces cause the tectonic plates to shift in a predictable, regular pattern. If this is so, then it may be that these external cyclical forces are predictable. For example, if the gravitational force of a passing comet are responsible for starting a chain reaction that causes the Earth's tectonic plates to move, or perhaps solar flares from the sun, then it may be possible to track these cosmic events and predict the next continental shift. Two factors argue that these global shifts could occur on a regular basis every few thousand years. Firstly, the fact that an unknown cataclysmic events and unexplainable climate change have caused great civilizations to come to an abrupt end in the geographical and archaeological record. And secondly, the fact that many species have rapidly come and gone inexplicably in the geological and paleontological record. The significance of these events is usually buried within the unimaginably vast tracts of time according to the history of the Earth in modern scientific theory, thus lulling our civilization into the same unwitting stupor that caused those of the past to be caught unawares by massive and global natural events. Considering the cataclysmic nature that the rapid transit of continents would have on coastal regions and the susceptibility of the Earth to cosmic and solar events, combined with the absence of understanding prevalent concerning the Earth's climate system, research into what might cause rapid continental shift should be a priority. The fact of the matter is that the recent focus on climate change and the impact that solar flares and other such cosmic events are now known to have upon the Earth may mean that the Earth is again approaching a period of rapid continental transit. If this is so, then it may be necessary to begin planning methods of safeguarding coastal communities from such an event. And that's that for this time.